welcome to the latest episode of the Intentional Career Podcast, the podcast where we are focused on giving you the tools, tips, and advice to help you own and maximize your career, because an intentional career is a successful career. Because when your career is intentional, it literally means you are in the driving seat of your career. My name is Femi AKINYEMI. I'm your host, executive career coach and life coach, amongst other things. And I'll be talking to you this week. And what I'll be talking this week about is overcoming imposter syndrome at work. And it's one I get asked almost every time by people that come up to me. So let's start from the beginning. Let's rewind. Let me give you a story. Once upon a time, and I tell this a lot, I was working with a major company and I was a strategy advisor, which meant I sat down a lot with the CEO of the company. And this is a Fortune 500 company. So we're talking people who have thousands of people reporting to them, and my job was to draft the strategy. When we say strategy, it means our costs, how much we're going to invest in the business, what we spend our money on, innovative ideas, how basically do we become market leaders. And one of the things I always struggled with was I would create this presentation about giving them the CEO advice, and I'd be sitting down in a room with the CEO and I would literally go there. And because I was the only black person in the room, I would sit down there and feel like I don't deserve to be here. What makes me good enough to be here? Is what I'm saying of any value? Do they trust me? Are they listening to me? That, my friends, is what we call imposter syndrome. Have you ever heard when you say someone is an imposter? When you say someone is an imposter, what you say is they are faking it. They are trying to be something they're not. They're trying to impersonate someone else. So that happened to me a lot. And it typically happens to a lot of us when we are either minority, so it can happen a lot to women in the workplace. If you're black, if you're Asian, as a minority in a workplace, or sometimes even if you're from the majority, say you were white, for example, but you are from maybe you were from a working class background and you were working with lots of people who were from middle to upper class, who went to private school and their accent sounded very assertive, and you'd feel like, I don't deserve to be here. I don't know anyone that deserves to be here. So imposter syndrome can happen to anyone, to minorities. And my experience is it happens a lot to us when you're a black, Asian, or when you're a woman, or even a man who's a minority. It happens a lot, but that usually what happens. And it usually comes with that feeling of doubt. It manifests itself in self-doubt, questioning yourself. And if you don't grab a hold of it in the moment, if you don't know that it's happening to you, you won't know it, but your confidence in the way you communicate, your assertiveness will fade away. And as you're in the meeting, you lose confidence in yourself. And once you lose confidence in yourself, others lose confidence in you. And it's a horror story for me personally, because I remember I was in the meeting with the CEO and he asked me a question, and fine, fair enough, I did not know the answer to the question. But even if you don't know the answer, and not knowing the answer to the question isn't a validation or an invalidation that you're not good at your job. It just means you don't know the answer to the question. Sometimes it means you're not good at your job. For the most time, the reason that you're in that room is that you're good at your job. It just means you don't know the answer. And what you need to do is confidently say, I haven't got the answer for you, I'll come back to you. But I was so riddled with self-doubt, I was so lacking in self-confidence that I couldn't quite give the answer confidently, and I didn't even say I don't know or I'll get back to you confidently. And even if I don't know, I didn't know how to communicate why I don't know. And the CEO and CEOs typically, they're very time poor, they need decisions made on the spot. And unsurprisingly, the next time we're going to have a meeting, he told my manager not to bring me in. And I was about to go into the meeting. My manager said, Femi, don't worry, we can sit this one out. And these are the scars that come with life in when you're trying to build your career and build your confidence. And it happens to all of us. So I learned from that. I'm a lot better for it. But I thought I'd share that with you to show that I understand your pain. I've been there before. I know what it happens. I know how it happens. And you've got to really just take it on the chin. but understand when that self-impostor syndrome creeps up on you and wants to plague and riddle you with self-doubt. So in this session, I'm going to be talking about how imposter syndrome can hold you back in your career by undermining your confidence and self-belief. I've explained how it undermines your confidence and self-belief because I shared my personal story. But here are the key points you need to understand, because the question you're probably asking is, yeah, that happened to me. What do I do? Number one, you have to just recognize imposter syndrome. You've got to accept it exists and it's real. And you can't touch it, you can't hold it, but it's real. And you've got to understand the signs and symptoms. One of the most common symptoms is you start to almost have like an out-of-body experience. You almost start to have this feeling where you're in a room looking at yourself with everyone else and you're saying, look at him, he doesn't deserve to be there. What's Femi talking about? Femi, you don't deserve to be here. Does anyone in here listen to you? They're not listening to you. They're probably asking themselves, why are you here? And you see this voice in your head. And the more you feed it, that voice gets bigger and you start to get more smaller, metaphorically and sometimes physically speaking, because your shoulders hunch, your voice drops, you kind of recline back, and then people just kind of sense. So it manifests itself really as self-doubt and fear of failure. You don't want to fail, so in meetings you don't want to speak up, because if you speak up, you're almost telling yourself, I'm almost literally validating their thoughts about me. Never mind that the thoughts are in your head. It's not what they're thinking about you. It's the thoughts in your head. And obviously, the more this goes on, the more they will think it because it manifests. But in the beginning, it's just in your head. So you've got to be able to recognize when this is happening and say, Femi, snap out of it. Femi, this is not true. You deserve to be here. The second thing you need to do is you need to learn to reframe negative thoughts. So reframing is really just the ability to take something that's happened to you and turn it around and look at it positively. And you have to do this. I cannot emphasize how much of life and career is all about mind management. You have to learn how to manage your mind. There's a story of an old Indian story of you have a bad wolf and a good wolf, or a bad monkey and a good monkey on your shoulder. The good monkey is always whispering positive things to you, and the bad monkey is always whispering negative things to you, and they're constantly fighting. And someone asks which one wins, and they say the one you feed. The one you feed is the one you allow its voice to dominate you. So you have to learn to reframe negative thoughts. You have to challenge negative self-perceptions by focusing on the evidence of your competence and achievements. What you have is evidence of your success, evidence of your wins, evidence of why you deserve to be here. You deserve to be here because you went through a rigorous interview process and they employed you amongst hundreds of people. You deserve to be here because you studied X number of courses. You deserve to be here because you have the experience of delivering these programs or projects or technologies or solutions. You deserve to be here because you've built your career slowly. You deserve to be here because you're someone who learns, and even if you make mistakes, you're willing to learn. You have to be able to reframe it and just see it in a positive light, because if you don't, it will literally eat you up and to spit you out, and you can set yourself back in your career and your reputation. I know from experience because I've shared it. And number 3, you've got to seek support. You've got to talk to trusted colleagues or mentors about your feelings. Don't let these feelings live in your head. Sometimes you've got to be able to speak to people who will tell you they've been through it. Listen to the Intentional Career podcast, or you've got to talk to mentors, coaches, people, or sometimes just look at your success journal. What are the things you've done in the past? Or speak to people who know you well, who can assure you, no, this is not true. Femi, you are good at what you do. So get people's perspective and get their encouragement, and listen to a lot of positive self-affirmations. You just need to manage your mind, because it's critical, especially in the early days when you're in any role, in any new project, in any new company, in any new situation. So you've got to be able to do it to manage imposter syndrome. So what are the takeaways we have from this conversation? Number 1, practice self-affirmations and positive self-talk to counteract feelings of inadequacy. When these feelings come up, don't be afraid to say, I deserve to be here. I am good at this. I've done this before. What's the worst that can happen? They can say no, and I'll suggest something else, but I deserve to be here. I've worked hard for this. And yes, you have worked hard for it. Number 2, share your experience of imposter syndrome with others to normalize the conversation and realize you're not alone. You see, everybody, even the most successful people, have self-doubt. The only difference is they do not live there. It happens, and they've built these frameworks that we've spoken about, these mental formulas that once the doubt comes upon them, they very quickly dust it off. They feel the fear and do it anyway. So you've got to learn to speak to other people so you can realize, listen, it doesn't just happen to you. It happens to all of us. And lastly, focus on continuous learning and growth, really. Listen to the Intentional Career Podcast, the You Unleashed podcast. Sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and other sources of information. I say that in jest, but read a lot and just start to learn more about it and focus on continuous learning and growth and embracing challenges. Because the other thing is you've got to embrace challenges, because challenges take you out of your comfort zone. And every time you succeed out of your comfort zone, what was your discomfort zone becomes your comfort zone, and you stretches and builds your capacity and you grow even more. So these are opportunities for development and rather than self-doubt. Okay, so do that and you grow, and these become reasons to celebrate rather than self-doubt. It's all about stacking up the wins and crushing the losses. And the more you do that, the more confident, the more you deserve, you believe to be there. Because we all know we've got people who, some people don't even have imposter syndrome. They have the opposite, which is, I wish I knew what it is, but it's a syndrome where they've achieved absolutely nothing, but they can blag their way out of a closed phone booth. They can just sweet talk anyone and they don't deliver anything. So how much more you that is good at your job and delivers? You should be fine. Just believe in yourself. Go for it. And the biggest lesson I can give you here is this. It's better to lose by marching forward with what you know and going for it, rather than not speaking and losing because you'll hate yourself for the fact that you might as well have just spoken and shared what you know. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Intentional Career Podcast, and I hope this little nugget is going to help you as you go into the week overcome imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and smash the week and just go. Here's one suggestion I have for you. When you're in any meeting, be the first to speak. Take control of the meeting. Speak with confidence. Get out of your comfort zone. Do that once a week and you'll be amazed how far you can get. Femi, AKINYEMI, Intentional Career. Own your career. Maximize your career. See you next week.